how the rules work, how coaches are traveling to the schools, what they're asking the coaches, what the players can be asking the coaches, and ultimately what you want to get out of the spring period itself, whether you're a 26 or 25. So we've got quite a bit to cover, and but we're going to try to kind of move quickly on the front end of this call, and then we're going to save the back end for specific scenarios, just like we did last time. So definitely type your questions in the chat when they come up, and then if you have a very specific situation that you want to talk through, let's use this time to do that. That to me is the most valuable time that could be spent here, is actually breaking down specific situations, because you're probably not, alone, and other parents can hear how you could potentially handle it. So all right, good. So everyone, if you don't know Brian's in this call as well. He's our head coach. He has 15 years of Division I recruiting experience. Most of you all know him. And he was just recently at the University of Arkansas. So I think I want to start off, from the coach's perspective. And that's one thing that Brian really brings to the table, is understanding what coaches are thinking about during this period. We got the transfer portal, right? Just because it's closed doesn't mean that schools and coaches still aren't actively recruiting players that are in it. So not only are they traveling, trying to go to spring ball practices, but they got the transfer portal. They're trying to raise money like hand over fist right now for the NIL. So there's a lot of things going on in their mind. And I want Brian to start with the coach's perspective on what coaches are thinking about, what they're going through during this period, the spring period, when they're coming to practices, just so you can get in their mind and understand what they're thinking. And then we'll break down what you can be doing, and if your son's on here, if you're an athlete on here, what you could be doing. So Brian, let's kick that off with the coach's schedule, what they're going through, just what's going on in their mind.
Yeah. Good evening, guys. I thought this would be a good idea because I had a couple questions over the past few weeks when coaches would say this to kids in the school, or parents would hear the kids say this, say spring evaluation period. They were like, well, what the heck is that? We don't even know what that is, you know what I mean, or what it encompasses. So, I thought it would be a good idea just to get everybody on and kind of explain to you what's going on, like Richie said, kind of the mind frame of the coaches and the staffs during this time, kind of what they're looking for. And then Richie will get into some specifics about how you can be ready for it, some things you can do. So basically the spring evaluation period is exactly what it means. So all these schools have just gotten out of spring ball. This is the first time they've been able to go back out on the road and see players for quite a while, since signing day, since the second signing day back in February. So it's been a pretty big gap in there until they could go back out on the road recruiting and seeing schools. So basically what they're doing is, you hear us talk a lot about the area coach, finding the area coach. We teach our guys in the training about finding the area coach. This is the area coach. This is an area coach period. And what I mean by that is every coach that's going out now from each of these staffs, they all have an area of the country or an area of your state you live in. They all have an area that they're responsible for. And let's just use the state of Texas, just right off the top of my head. If the University of Texas is going out right now, all 10 of those assistant coaches have a area in Texas, some area in Texas. All of them have an in-state area. And then also all of them also have areas in other parts of the country that they're responsible for. And those areas may encompass 20, 30, 40 schools total. Okay. So they're responsible for going to all those schools and basically gathering information on all the prospects at those schools. Okay. And so when they set their schedule and they head out to those schools, they're gathering information for every position. Okay. I want you to understand that. So like the running back coach may be going to, your son's school, and your son plays O-line. Well, he's still going to talk to him and gather information for him, because that's what the area coaches do. And then if they like him, and then, and he'll gather the transcripts, the film and everything, and he'll take it back to the O-line coach for him to evaluate, if that makes sense. So it's a big gathering information period for the coaches. And that's what they're doing when they're going out in the spring evaluation period. Okay. And like Richie said, we try to tell our guys not to get too frustrated with outreach during this time for all the reasons he mentioned. Okay. They're on the road every day. They're hitting 7 or 8 schools. They're in and out of schools. They're talking to coaches. They're living out of a hotel. Most of them are gone at least a week at the time. Some of them stay out 2 weeks at the time. Okay, they're away from their family, they're away from, they take computers and stuff like that, but it's a tough communication period for them because there's a ton going on, and they may get called on Thursday and say, hey, we're in on this guy on the portal. He's coming in on a visit, so he's got to come off the road and go back to his school and do a visit with the transfer portal kid. There's a lot of moving parts during this time, so I would encourage you with your athletes to just keep them encouraged during this time if the communication slows down a little bit. And sometimes it may not, but if it does, there's usually a reason for it during this time, because there is a lot going on with that coach between recruiting, his own players back at his school, and everything else, and him just simply being on the road, and being a little overwhelmed with the whole recruiting process. The next thing I want to touch on is like when the coach actually gets to the school. And again, I've talked to some of our guys about this. I don't want people to feel like that they're only talking to the head coach. Now, they're going to speak to the head coach. I mean, or they're going to ask to anyway. Some head coaches have other coaches that like really handle the recruiting for them for their team. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to want to talk to the head coach. So one thing I would say to do is, make sure your son's having communication with this head coach. Make sure they're on the same page about, kind of what's being, said, and getting feedback from those coaches when they come see them, if they don't get to talk to them personally. So tell your athletes to communicate well with the head coach about what's going on in his recruitment when schools are coming through. The second thing I'll say is,
Brian, can I pause you right here? Because this is really important. Like one of the things that we talk to our athletes a lot about is the relationships that we can build with our own coaches, right? It's not just outreach to other coaches, but it's the internal relationships that we're building with the coaches that we have. We have good players who have D1 offers right now where their head coaches aren't pitching them at all when people come in the door. And so there's so what I can say there, and what we really harp on with the athletes and the ones that are here that know this, is you've got to be building a relationship with your coaches. And now I'm not going to just sit here and tell you the what, but I'm going to give you the how. And this is really important. It's consistently communicating with the coach, meeting them in their office on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis, depending on if they're in season or not, and asking the coach what they need to do to get better, what they need to do to get to the next level, and then doing what that coach told them to do and showing that coach that they did it. This is so important, because when a coach, an area coach, does come to the school and asks the head coach, tell me about this kid, because they're going to, he could say, he was always asking me what he needed to do to get better. He always went and did it, and then he did it again. He was consistent. He always found ways to improve. This is the type of kid he is. So I don't mean to pause you too long there, Brian, but I do want to make that point of, it's not just the relationships with outreach with coaches, but with the coach you have, because those conversations can take a coach the conversations that your son's having with the coach can make or break the conversations that he's having with college coaches. And it makes a huge difference if he's giving you glowing reviews versus just saying he's a good player. Big difference.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Brian. I just want to.
No, absolutely. And I'm saying all this too, guys, from total experience. I was not a position coach in Division I level. I was director of player personnel and recruiting, but I had to several times go on the road myself, whether we lost coaches or he took another job and I had to replace him on the road. So I've actually done these things in the school myself. And piggybacking off what Richie said, most of the guys are going to want to talk to the head coach, but something that goes under the radar sometimes, and I just want you to know this because you can stress it to your athletes, is the one person that I was going to, the very next person that I was going to talk to when I went into the school after the head coach was the lunch lady. I'm not lying. And I'm going to tell you why. Because your son is going to be exactly who he is going through that lunch line, because he doesn't think anybody in that lunchroom can hurt him or help him. Like around his friends, around other adults and stuff, he's going to be exactly who he is. In front of the coach, he's going to do it right. He's going to say, yes, sir, no, sir, probably. He's going to do all this. And I'm not saying they don't all the time. I'm simply saying that when I went in there and talked to those men and women that worked in that lunchroom, they were brutally honest about who they thought the kid was and how he carried himself in and out of that building. Okay. So be very cognizant and speak to your athletes about, how they carry themselves, throughout the building with people that they don't think can help them. With some coaches, it's the janitor, the guy that, cleans the building. Some people, it's the lunch lady. Some people it's the guidance counselor, because he or she has nothing to really to do with like their football talent or what they're doing on the football field. They mean helping them with academics and things like that. But just be very cognizant that it may not be just football coaches that they're going to want to talk to when they go in that school. Okay. And that'll help them obviously in life in general. You know what I mean? You need to be obviously a good person all the time. But that was big for me. And then the other thing, you know, that they're looking for when they walk in there, guys, is from your athlete is confidence. I mean, and you know, we work with our guys on that all the time. But, you know, if they do get 5 minutes with them, 10 minutes with them, whatever the case may be, you know, they're looking for them to look them in the eye, shake them in the hand with a firm handshake, you know, be confident in who they are as a player, be confident to want to show them their tape, you know, and I know Richie's going to cover some of that stuff in a second, but confidence, you got to build that confidence in them. And I was doing a role play. I'll give you a great example. You know, I was doing a role play with one of our guys, you know, the other day. He was preparing for a couple of things. One was a call with the coach, and obviously he's not face to face with them. But he was, you know, he was a little nervous about it and had done it before, and he's getting much better at it every time we do it. But he also had, you know, he knew he had a coach coming by the school that he had been in communication with. You know what I mean? And the other thing that I, you know, try to really impose on them is, and you can help with this as much as possible. Look, yeah, they're college coaches, guys, but they're human beings. Don't overthink this thing now. Like they put their pants on the same way everybody else does. You know what I mean? They just have another profession. And yes, they can offer you scholarships and all that stuff, and that's what we're trying to get. But you can't overthink it either. I always wanted the kid to be, you know, be himself, you know, when I walked into school and be confident and things like that. I didn't want the moment to be too big because I was just wearing a logo on my shirt. You know what I mean? So preach that confidence into them and them as a player and as a person. Okay. And then the last thing I'll tell you is kind of what's going on back in the building while these coaches are out there. So when they gather all this information on these different positions, they're sending it back kind of to home base. You know, they're sending it back with tape. They're sending it back with transcripts. They're sending back their notes when they talk to the lunch lady or whoever it is else they talk to. You know, they're sending that all back. And now these guys are building their boards out. All right. So right now they're trying to finish their 25 board, depending on where they are. You know, if they need to add to the 25 board, getting ready to go down the stretch because they're getting ready for that senior tape to come out. And that's going to make the difference a lot of times. But they're getting ready for the home stretch of 25, and they're trying to add as many good players to the 26 board as they can. Okay. That's what they're doing right now. Most schools, even the big one, all the way to the top, you know, even the top Division I schools in the country, are typically only working 2 classes at a time. I'm talking, when I say working, I mean like actively working them and recruiting them. And if your kid's a 26 right now, he still can't contact him yet. He's still not legally supposed to respond to him yet. But that doesn't mean that they're not gathering the information still and still building that board. Okay. At every school in America, you know, they've got a 20, well, not every school, but, you know, relatively every school that has a decent sized staff, everybody has a 25 and a 26 board that they're actively working right now. So that's kind of how, you know, that's kind of what's going on behind the scenes back in the office, and where you can, you know, move up and down that board, you know, obviously based on a few things coming up, with first being camps. You know, camps can move you up and down that board. And we had the, you know, Q&A last month on camps. That can move you up and down that board. And then the second thing that's going to move you is your tape coming up, you know, next fall, whatever year that may be, you know, for your son. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what we're looking at. And that's what the period entails, kind of what they're looking for, some things going on behind the scenes. You know, and if you have any questions on any of that, like Richie said, just throw them in the chat. You know, we'll get to them here, you know, in a little bit.
Yeah, throw it in the chat, because like you'll forget it and then you won't remember. So throw it in the chat, because now we want to start talking about how you can handle the coaches coming to the school as a parent, and how your son can handle it as well. So first thing to note is that there's a new rule, and that's that Division I schools can only visit in the spring one time now. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah. So previously, guys, a little context, for many, many years, Division I schools could go to your school twice during the spring evaluation period. So they could come one time, like right in the beginning, and then if they wanted to circle back and like see you play in the spring game the second time, they could come back and see you play in the spring game. Now they just get one shot.
Got one shot. So and typically there's a very limited amount of time, right? We're talking about 5 minutes or less that your son's going to have with them. So what the most important thing is to understand where this coach is with your son in the sales process. Or if you're an athlete on here, you know, number one is, where's this coach in the sales process? So if I'm meeting this coach, shaking his hand, thank you so much, nice to meet you, have you had a chance to see my film yet? That's right off the bat. If they have not had a chance to watch your son's film, this is the most valuable thing you can do in the 5 minutes with this coach, is to have that coach sit down and watch and evaluate the film with your son. Like, if here's the problem. If you have a conversation with a coach and he hasn't watched your film and maybe he's watched a little bit of practice, this conversation is going to be purely about fluff. They may go watch your film later. They may not. They may send it to the position coach. They may not. The most important thing is that that coach watches his video and leaves saying, I need to get this to the position coach. Or they straight offer you a visit right then and there. If they have not watched the video, it's the most important thing. If they've watched the video, now we could start finding, now we're going to take them through the WIN framework, which is in the training, where we're going to find out, depending on what class he's in, how many, let's say he's a receiver, how many receivers are you potentially going to be signing this year? What are you looking for in a receiver? Why are we falling short in that area? And then your son could start pushing why they should invite him to go to the school, right? So one, most valuable thing is that to get them to watch the video right then and there, get feedback, and get a confirmation that they're going to share this with the position coach and move it up the chain. Because they're either going to leave and be like, I can't wait to talk, I've got to get this position coach, or they're going to leave and say, I got to talk to a bunch of other players, I might get this to them, I might forget. Like, that's the bottom line. They've got to be excited about it. So another really, really important thing is phone number. We're not exchanging Twitter DMs or X accounts. We're getting a cell phone number. And the best way to get the cell phone number is to ask for it. Is just ask for it. Are you going to get it every time? No, but you asked, right? Coach, it's been great. Thank you so much for watching my video. What are next steps? I'm going to be presenting this to the position coach. Perfect. So we don't play phone tag. What's your cell phone? Pull out the phone to get their phone number, right? Sometimes they'll try to work around it a little bit. Coaches are good at fluffing and moving things around. That's just what they do. And sometimes if they're serious, they'll give it to you. And that's another way you'll know if they're serious. So just to recap, and then I'll let Brian hit on this. One, where are they at in the sales process? Have they seen the video? Have they not seen the video? If they've seen the video, perfect. This is a face-to-face. We're going to take them through the WIN framework so that we could begin to really sell this coach on why they should choose you over somebody else, and then push for an official visit. If they haven't seen the video, we tell athletes, have your computer with you or your phone or whatever, and have the video up ready to go so that you can open it up, hit play, and they can start watching it. Especially if coaches are coming to your school and they're calling you out of class, you got to have your computer, your iPad, your phone with the do not go to that meeting with the coach without your video ready to play. Whether it doesn't matter on what device, but it's got to be ready to play. So you can just pull it out and play it. Because a lot of times you're only going to have 3 to 5 minutes with that coach. Brian, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's 100% right. And that's where I say, guys, the confidence piece comes in. You know what I mean? And look, another thing I want to add, this is happening with our guys like currently now. Like these are things that are already happening since the spring evaluation periods come on. Like, you know what I mean? We've coached guys through already, coaches showing up and them like, I don't know, I don't want to show them the tape, and getting them over that fear or whatever you want to call it, and actually showing them the tape and getting good results. So these are things that are actually happening right now. So all those things are important, and you'd be shocked, guys. Like, guys that are, athletes that are confident like that, and kind of come off as an alpha or stuff like that, I'm telling you, they move up the board. You know what I mean? Because everybody's looking for them. That's what you're looking for. You know what I mean? You want to be able to coach him hard, but you want him to be able to come to you and say, hey, coach, I know I need to get better. I saw this on tape. You know what I mean? Those guys that put off that aura, I'm just telling you, you know what I mean? It means something. It does. When you get on the college level, you know what I mean? It's no more, standing in the back of the line, or, you know what I mean? Don't want to ask a question, things like that's out the window. You know what I mean? And that's why we we try to coach our guys up, you know what I mean, and give them that confidence to do that. So Richie's 100% right. And then the last thing we wanted to hit on, and me and Richie both can hit on this real quick, because I see some questions. You got some good questions in the chat. Is what you can do to stay relevant, during this period. You know what I mean? Even with the coaches coming in there, if you're at a school that doesn't get a lot of traffic, or even if you are at a school that gets good amount of traffic when the coaches are there, remember, they're not all back at home base sitting in the war room, with all this, looking at looking at this and looking at that. You really got to use social media during this time, guys. And I know we harp on it with our guys. That's how you stay relevant in today's world in the spring evaluation period. And when you're not playing football, you have to use it. College coaches live on there. That's where they get a ton of information from. I told Richie this when I first came on and we were just chatting, I got more, and I got a ton of information from high school kids, on Twitter and things like that. But when I was working the transfer portal, I was 100% on social media, 100%. Because I'm gonna tell you, I could go to a college athlete or high school athlete's social media profile, and I could scroll for about 3 or 4 minutes, and I can tell you exactly what kind of guy he is. And really close. Now that's 15 years of doing it, but that should tell the story, So you got to stay relevant. Well, how do you stay relevant? Okay, there's a lot of things you can do. One is obviously if you played spring ball, it can do a spring ball cut up. You got some good tape from spring ball doing live football. That's great. Okay. We've got guys that go early to practice during spring ball because they don't, play a spring game. All they do is practice, and some of them don't even take to practice. They go early out there with one of their teammates. They put their gear on and they get them to video them on their phone doing drills before practice so they can post it on social media. Right? That's how you get content to post. That's how you stay active. You know what I mean? That's how you stay relevant. It shows you wanting to get better, and it gives coaches an opportunity to see you doing live football drills. Okay. We have guys who use the weight room really well.
Use the Tabers as an example, because they're here.
Yep.
Ty's being recruited right now. He's a quarterback, really good quarterback, but he's also being recruited at tight end. And so there was actually a visit to a school, and we got on Ty about it, but he did it. And so instead of waiting to maybe not be able to go to a camp or for some miracle to happen, he went out and because he's a quarterback, but they wanted to see him at tight end. He went out, made videos on the field, brought guys out there to cover him as a tight end, and is then posting them online, tagging that coach to see. These are the things that, to stay relevant, you've got to do. There's no excuse. Like, I hate to say that, but there's not. Well, I'm a quarterback. They want to see me play tight end. Well, I'm not going to play tight end next year. He's a starting quarterback. So you're just going to give up on it? No. I'm going to go out with my friends. I'm going to have guys cover me. I'm going to run routes, and I'm going to tag the heck out of the coach and keep doing it until he decides to take a chance on me. This is the mentality. This is the attitude.
Yeah, and that's a great example. We've been working with Ty a bunch on that. And look, guys, Ty's a really good player. He's a really good quarterback. I love him at quarterback. But I didn't hesitate for 1 second when those people said that they wanted to see him at tight end. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "You need to go out there and play some tight end and put it on tape." I even went so far as telling him, "Go put your helmet and shoulder pads on out there and strike the sled or something." You know what I mean? And he's willing to do whatever it takes to get as many opportunities as he can possibly get, which is obviously the goal here for you guys, right? Is to get as many opportunities you can possibly get at whatever position that may be. And the other thing I'll say and tag along about what Richie said, when you do those things, guys, and I was just getting ready to say, guys use the weight room. If they're in the weight room, get their buddy to film them in the weight room. Okay. Why just Melissa's son just did, they videoed him doing a broad jump. He's a 26. A 9 foot plus broad jump is really good for a 2026. And all they did was film it. Whoop, broad jump, 20 seconds, really good, and posted it. Okay. That's really good tape. And then you just tag the coaches that you've been in communication with, that you had some kind of communication with, or if you're trying to shoot a shot at 1 or 2, we understand that. And we've got really good feedback from it. I've got guys taking pictures of their meals. They're trying to gain weight. They're little smaller going into whatever year this is, and they're trying to gain weight. They're trying to show the coaches that they're willing to do what's necessary to put on the weight. So they'll take pictures of their meals and post it and tag coaches on there. There's a ton of stuff you can do on social media to stay relevant, guys, during this period. And it is huge, I'm telling you. Because when those guys are in and out of those high schools, in between when they're eating that hot dog for lunch or whatever, and they're in the hotel room at night, you know what I mean, sending all that stuff back to the school, they're scrolling on social media. I guarantee you they are. Okay. And the other thing you can do is thank coaches for stopping by your school. If coaches stop by your school, don't say you talk to them or anything like that. Just say, I appreciate Coach so-and-so for stopping by my school, you know, today and asking about me or something like that. You know what I mean? Don't say you talked to them. Don't say you did that, but you can just say, I appreciate, you know, him stopping by. And so all those things matter, and it's huge. Okay. Social media is huge. So I really wanted to reiterate that before we got to the questions in the chat.
Yeah. Cause I want to start going through some really good stuff, and I want to make sure that we get through to everyone's questions and specific situations. The big, big takeaway is one parent asked me one time, how aggressive is too aggressive? And the bottom line is, in this world, each area coach is responsible for recruiting about 74,000 players, right? These coaches, if you're being heavily recruited by a Division I school, these coaches are aggressive as hell. Like, if you wouldn't believe how aggressive they are trying to get their guys. So it's tough to be annoyingly aggressive, right? If you're just calling them every day and leaving and being rude and like, that's not what we're talking about. The mindset of being aggressive is when you sit down, having the mentality to say, hey coach, I only know we got a few minutes. You haven't seen my video. Can you evaluate it with me? It's important to me. I really want to play there. Right. And then following up with them every single week after week after week. Right. I wish I could share a picture with you. We had a player, Braden, who wants to go to Mizzou and emailed the coach 6 times, 666. And on the 7th one, the coach replied, very positive, nice reply. And most people would be like, oh, no one would ever follow up that much. So the mentality is you've got to be aggressive if you want it. If you don't want it, then don't be aggressive, but you got to be aggressive.
And following up real quick on that, guys, aggressive, like when the coach is in front of you, it's more of the confidence. I'm saying, like, you know what I mean? Just having the willingness to say, have you watched my tape and can you watch it? Like, you know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying like, walking up to the coach and say, hey, by the way, I'm the best player in this league. And it ain't even close. No. I'm not saying walk up and, just start giving him your stats and accolades and all that stuff. You know what I mean? I'm talking about more of a demeanor, you know what I mean? And a confidence to, ask him, has he watched the tape and can he give you some feedback? And, can you get his contact information? That's more of what I'm speaking to. You know what I mean? Not necessarily, boasting about their self individually.
100%. Okay. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Love it. All right, let's get through some of these questions. Melissa, I got your question up first. And if you have anything you want to say about the question for all of these, guys, feel free to speak up. Like, again, I don't want this to be an hour-long monologue. Like, I wanted to give the high-level stuff and now really dive into answering your stuff, specific situations. So, Melissa, how do coaches decide which high schools to visit? So, a lot of the coaches have specific players that are already somewhat on their board, or specific schools that have a really good reputation of having players. But I'm also going to let Brian head on that one because he's the one that actually scheduled the coaches. So he's going to answer this way better than I will. But go ahead.
So here's the basic blueprint for every school, guys, is they have what they feel is their recruiting footprint that gives them the best opportunity to sign players. Okay. A lot of it is geographics, right? So they think that this area of the country, or everybody's going to recruit their home state, right? So they're going to recruit their home state, but then geographically they see, and it's based on budget too, how far out they can go. They see where they think they have the best chance of signing players. And I'll give you a quick example real quick so we can get to all the questions. My last stop was the University of Arkansas. All 10 of my coaches had an area in Arkansas because we wanted to cover our home state, right? So we covered our home state. But then we felt like that our best chance to sign really good players was East Texas, because it was right next door to us. Okay. Louisiana, because geographically it was right below us. We went up into Kansas City, Missouri, because it was north. And we went into Oklahoma. Okay. And that geographically was our footprint. Now, I also had my running back coach in Atlanta because he was a high school coach there previously and had won a state championship. He had a ton of relationships and ties down there. So I had him there because he knew people there and we could get players out of there. So there's always an outlier like that, but most of the time it's geographics and where they think they can get the most bang for their buck, if that makes sense. That's how they decide what schools are going to recruit.
Yeah, and Mario, so I kind of talked a little bit about the players too, and Mario said basically to add to that, do they already have a sense of position players they need or particular players? So they do have like a list of player, like position groups, but particular players.
Yeah, so typically they'll all get together and have a big recruiting meeting before they go out. And if you're in the 25 class, they've already got their numbers set of what they're taking. All right, we're taking 1 quarterback. We're taking, now it's not an exact number. It might be 2 to 3 running backs, depending on what happens in the portal. We're taking 5 offensive linemen. We're taking 4 wideouts. So every coach that goes out knows kind of the number that, they're trying to take. But then again, it's the area coach going out. So all he's doing is gathering information. So even if they're only taking 4 wideouts in that class, every good player that he finds at wideout, he's going to push him to the wide receiver coach and let him figure out which ones to offer, if that makes sense. But yes, they already have a really good idea of who the players are and how many they're taking at that position when they go out on the road.
This is why having them watch the film with you is so critical, because they put a face to the name. They watch the video and you stand out. Because when they leave these schools, they've got like 8, 9, 10 guys, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna go watch this video, and I'm gonna evaluate these guys." And then, no, like you're getting it done right then and there. Like this is the trick, so to say, that no one does. That will let your son stand out when they're visiting all these schools. So these are good questions. And again, guys, if there's any addition to it, speak up or put it down below too. All right, so Allison out the door. I have 2 questions. Son is 22.5, very humble, will not post a lot on X, unless the film is perfection in his mind, which it, okay. He also does not believe in showboating, so let's just say he barely posts, and it seems that is what is needed. It seems many offer. Okay, so let me just real quick address number 1. So the purpose of posting is so that the coaches that are already following you see it, and also so that when you're doing outreach to coaches, they're going to go look on your X account and your Instagram to go and see who you are. You want to be able to show it. That's the purpose of posting. It's not to go viral. It's not to make your friends happy. It's not to get a girl to like you, right? So the mindset your son has is he thinks he's posting for likes and comments and what girls think and all. No. It's specifically so that when a coach goes to see it, they can see who he is, or if a coach is already following him, they can learn, they can keep up with you, right? And you can stay top of mind. So from a mindset standpoint, I don't know your son, Allison, I don't believe, but that's the mindset is I'm just posting only for coaches to see who I am. I don't care if it gets likes or what anybody thinks. Number 2, it seems many offers for current seniors at a school came in January. What happens if an offer comes in but my son never applied to that school? I'm not sure if I understand the question there. You can get an offer without. They're going to look at your transcripts, but go ahead, Brian. You look like you were going to.
Yeah, Allison, if they offer you a scholarship, they'll make sure you get applied.
Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't, sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but that was my question. It's like, how are all these kids getting these offers afterward? I'm doubtful that they applied to many of those schools.
Yeah, you don't have to be applied to get an offer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. And now, another thing I'll say is a little bit on your first question. Please impose this on your son. I love that. I love humble kids, you know what I mean? But please impose this on him. There's never been a perfect film in the history of college football, NFL football, high school football, or no level of football. It does not exist.
Except for Reggie Bush.
Not even him. A perfect film does not exist.
Wait, who was the guy that had the best high school video? What was his name? He was a running back. I think he went to West Virginia. I don't know. It was the best high school film of all time.
Yeah.
I'll say it.
Was it
Anyway.
White?
Yeah, who said that?
Cyber.
What was it?
White, wasn't it White? When
Yeah,
they
it
had
was it was something white, yeah.
2 cats there back in the.
It was from Texas. It was a guy from
Yeah.
Texas. All right. Allison, there's also like the accountability aspect, like making it a goal. I'm going to post 4 times a week, and then the accountability to ensure that that happens. Okay, cool. Melissa, is there a difference for the coaches between confident and cocky? Are both okay? So yes. confidence is asking the tough questions. Confidence is doing it in a way where you care about the coach and the outcome. Cocky is when you're just talking about yourself, right? That's why I really harp on the athletes using the win framework, which is find out what the coach wants, why they don't have it, and then the N is their next play. When you use that, you're asking questions where you'll stand out, what coach will be like, whoa, and shows confidence, like you know what you're talking about, but you're not coming off as cocky and just talking about yourself. Like it's like the pitch email that everybody sends. You know, like you guys know we don't start off with the pitch email because no one wants to be pitched for the. It's like you come up to someone and they're like, I'm a 25, I have 4,000 yards passing, 26 touchdowns. It's like, whoa. So that's typically the line. But confident is what we want, not cocky. Brian, I'll move on unless you have anything you want to add there.
No, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, Melissa, versus talking about yourself versus just having the confidence to, you know what I mean, do those other things. Yeah, there is a difference.
Because at the end of the day, the conversation with the coach is not about your kid. That's why the win framework training is so important. It's not about your kid. It's about the coach. It's about the coach recruiting the best players, and your son is that, and that coach realizing that. So he'll bring the film back. It's not about your kid. It's about the coach being looked at as finding and recruiting the best player, the coach then building a team that wins, and then that coach gets paid more and he gets raises and he gets moved to, like, think about it in terms of how do we help the coach win, not how does your kid get a scholarship. All right. Mr. Papiano, good to see you, man. How do we know what camps we should invest in and what camps not to invest in when coaches visit and push their camps? Been to several camps and they seem like a money grab more than they're advertised. So I know we did a training on this, but the big thing with the camps is you have to get validation from the coach. So if you get a camp invite, in order to, you can go to that camp. Well, hold on. This is a whole conversation. Henry, maybe we could have another conversation on this because this is like a big topic, and I'll just give you the lowdown. One is you have two types of camps. You have the camps that are like the Showcase, the FB Football University, the Under Armour, where they're not recruiting camps. They're like showcases. They're like, or games where you get invited to a game at a big stadium. Like those you're not going to get recruited at those. Those are more for competition and just, that's pretty much it. And then you have camps invites on college campuses. And now these are recruiting camps. All right. And so if you get an invitation from a coach, you've got to validate that invitation by reaching back out to that coach and asking them, thank you so much for the invite. Are you available to have a quick conversation to see if this camp is a good fit? And if the coach really wants you there, they'll conversate with you, and you can find out why they want you to go to that camp. And then you can make a decision on whether you want to go. If you go just for camp invites all over the place, you're going to be all over the place. All right, Caleb, I'm switching to corner. How should I handle that with upcoming camps and with the coaches I'm talking to currently? Will it affect recruiting at all? Hey man, you didn't tell me that last time we spoke. Yeah, you should definitely, so how should I handle that with upcoming camps with the coaches? So at the upcoming camps, are you saying like you already told them a position and now you have to switch it, Caleb?
Yeah, basically. They and this is not Caleb, by the way, it's his dad.
Okay.
he's I got him doing homework. He's got track, so he's got to stay cranking on the homework to get that done.
Got it.
But he wanted me to do this for him. So yeah, the switching the corner thing is pretty recent, like within the last probably week, if that. And so we were both just kind of wondering, like, most of these camps that we've signed up as safety. The only one that we were just about to sign up for because they just opened it was Weber State. And then I was like, I don't know what to sign up for. Corner, safety, like what's the focus? And I don't know how to approach that. Like,
why is he switching? Is he?
Apparently the DB coach thinks he's a better fit at corner. He's on the smaller side, 5'9", 164 pounds or whatever.
Okay.
Really fast. They just felt like he fit better at corner. So,
it's tough to say without like a real evaluation, but my initial thoughts, and then I'll let Brian answer this, is if he's going to go to camps this summer, like he's not playing corner until next year, right? The fall?
Yeah, till this fall, yeah. And he's got camps starting June 1st, and then he's going all the way from He's got 5 lined up right now.
Yeah. My initial thought is that he should stick with his current position.
Yeah.
And then just let coaches know that he's going to be potentially moving to corner, and then maybe get reps there. But I wouldn't even bring it up with any of the current coaches yet to really see until it happens and see how it pans out. Because if he already has coaches talking to him at his current position, I don't feel the need to have that, you know what I'm saying? Until does that make sense? Until it actually happens and we see the result of that, I would kind of keep things where they are.
Yeah, for sure. That makes sense. That was my feelings. Like, don't even say anything really until we know what's happening. And, if that's the case, then put more film together when you're there, like first 3-4 games, and then send that off, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because it might not even happen too. The coaches might be saying that now, and then when it starts becoming crunch time, they're like, all right, go back to safety. We need to make sure we win games.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, no, it shouldn't affect your recruiting until it happens, and then we'll see the results of it. I would still market himself exactly how he has been.
Yeah.
What we were struggling with in the focus seems to only be on offense. My son is defense. Where we're seeing less traction from his school in the 7-on-7 league on the defense. What position does he play?
Middle linebacker, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let Brian hit on this, but like when coaches are looking at middle linebackers film, I mean, they want to see, are they a type of guy that's sideline to sideline? Are they the type of guy that's going to get their nose in there and be violent and hit? And I don't know how much 7-on-7 is gonna really help there, to be frank. Mm-hmm. When you say we are seeing less traction from his school on
defense. His school doesn't track stats for defense, only offense. It's a very small school, and it's been a source of big frustration for me because we'll have to either do it all ourselves, because he's a defensive player and everyone just cares about offense. They only report the papers, the offensive, the touchdowns, the scores, not the sacks, not the tackles, none of that. And it's really discouraging, to be honest with you.
Yeah, totally. Brian, when you were recruiting linebackers, because I know you and I talked a lot about Paul. We were talking about him transferring from Arkansas to Ole Miss, and you did an evaluation on him. When you're looking at a linebacker, are you really looking, okay, how many tackles, tackle for loss, sacks, run, or are you more? It's more film evaluation. What's more heavily weighed?
Yeah. So if you, I'm moving, guys. That's why it looks like I've been kidnapped and I'm stuck in a room. But if I had my, so I packed all up. But if I could show you my book, I have like certain things I was looking for at each position, Allison. The very first number one under linebacker, I had some height weight requirements, depending on the school I was at. But the number right beside, literally the number one was violence.
Yeah.
Violence. Like on the tape, violent, like knocking people back, bloodying people's nose, this, that, and other. So to circle back to your question, first of all, the guy that told you or presented it to you as a great opportunity to get recruited just lied, just ball-faced lied to you.
I tried to say it nicer with Brian.
And I hate to say it that way. But
I get it. It's a money grab.
But it's a lot of people on here, and I want everybody to learn, obviously. They flat out lied to you if they told you that it was a great opportunity to get recruited for a couple reasons. And I never try to say things without giving context, right? One, college coaches cannot go watch 7-on-7. It's against the rules. So there's no in-person evaluation. Now, I'm not knocking 7-on-7 because you can get better. It hones your skills, right? You're playing, not real football, but you're doing all the movements. You know what I mean? Now, the guys that benefit the most, honestly, from 7-on-7 are the skill guys. What I mean by skill guys: quarterback, wideouts, corners, safeties, right? Because they're not going to let your son tackle anybody in 7-on-7, obviously. And that is the overwhelming characteristic that is going to be evaluated on tape for your son's position. It is, you know what I mean? Balance. And I hate to say it like that, but I'm telling you, that is going to be what gets him offers. You know what I mean? Not 7-on-7. So I would not let the 7-on-7 thing frustrate you, other than they lied to you. That would frustrate me. But, and I'm sorry that happened to you. I really am. And again, I'm not saying he can't get better playing.
No, he said he's learned how to block a lot better. So
I'm just simply saying they lied to you as far as the recruiting piece.
Thank you.
Cool. But
what about as far as the stats? Like, because I know that, like, do you feel like Allison should be tracking the stats, or to me it's the film? It's going to purely be how he moves on the film, how he tackles on the film, how he hits, the violence, like he's saying.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say about that, Allison. You know, in my 15 years recruiting at the Division I level, and I obviously watched thousands and thousands of highlight tapes. Very small percentage of them had stats like on the info slide, and I never looked them up because now if you want to keep them yourself just in case somebody asks, I don't think that'd be a bad idea. You know, a coach may ask, "Hey, do you have any sacks this year?" It may come up. So I'm not saying it's totally out of the question to keep up with them yourself. But I was always going to make my evaluation on the player based on what I saw on the tape.
There's a lot of ego, Allison, in college football and the coaching world. Brian and I talk a lot about that. And they're big on, like, I know because I saw.
That's right. And the other thing to that, Allison, is, shoot, we don't know half the say the kid does put it on his stats on the info slide. Well, how do I know the coach isn't lying? Like, I wasn't there. How do I know, how do I know the kid rushed for 1,500 yards and 40 touchdowns? I wasn't there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do we know anybody's telling the truth when it comes to stats? You know what I mean? But I know if I turn on the tape and watch him and I like him, I don't care what his stats were. You know what I mean? Personally, so that's what I'll say about that. If he has good tape and plays good, I mean,
market,
won't matter.
Posting like crazy, and outreach and sales. Market and sales. He's got to get his film in front of as many coaches as humanly possible. You want to go to camps and all this stuff, that's great. But if he's got good film, it's how many coaches can he get that in front of? And that's doing outreach, that's DMs, that's emails, should be on LinkedIn. And, I'm not going to preach on, but yeah.
And this is a great question too, which takes me back to, I tell our kids this all the time. I press them. Guys, what we do is a force multiplier to the tape. It's always going to come back to the tape.
Right.
Always, always, always going to come back to the tape. Always.
So you're good, Allison. Don't worry about it. Just have some kick butt tape. Don't worry about the stats. Don't worry about the 7. Like, let it. If he wants to do that stuff to get better, great. But keep getting good film. Outreach. Cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Good question. If kids develop a relationship with a coach, should they invite them to their school? Does that ever happen? Absolutely. Great question. So yeah, sometimes coaches will say, come to camp or come here. And sometimes coaches will say, actually, I'd like to come to your school. Or an athlete might say, hey, when you're in the area, can you come to the school? So to answer your question, absolutely. Yes, it does happen. And you can absolutely do that. Now they might, want you to go there, but yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. We should add that to our list. All right, good. Wow, we're actually 3 minutes from this time. And that was the last question that we have here in the chat. Look, like I said, one thing I think is so important is that this isn't like just attending a training thing that you can watch on YouTube. I really wanted this to be where you guys are asking questions and we can really support you. So does anybody else have any other question? Go ahead, Matt. What's up, Matt? What's up,
Brian and Richie, thank you guys for doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really quick, Berkeley High has had their coach is great. He's really supportive. Usually when coaches come to the school, though, he says, hey, here are my 3 guys I want you to see. And then the coach will meet all 3 guys at the same time, which seems like a fairly awkward way of going, hey, can I pull you aside so you look at my video? Is there a way to maneuver that? And especially if they're only coming once, that seems tough.
Yeah, we got to talk right to the coach. Absolutely. We got to go right to the head coach and say, hey, I thank you so much for bringing Lucas out. We definitely want to meet with the coach. Can we separate these 3 to 5 minutes and have, just so we have a little bit more of a personalized conversation. Okay. And I get it. Like the head coach, from their perspective, is like, their big thing is reputation, right? Like they want to save reputation. But he could definitely step up and say, I'd like to meet with the coach one-on-one, please.
Okay.
Have you done that yet?
So this spring, nobody's coming yet. This was towards the end of last year that it was coming. And so it would be kind of Lucas and 2 other guys that were in the room every time. And they're great. I mean, they had good conversations, but it just didn't seem like the format to be able to go, hey, take a look at this film.
It's a giant waste of time. I'm telling you, like I've talked to a lot of players that the coach comes and it's just 3-minute fluff. Like, I don't even know why the area coaches do this. Like, I think they're the ones that are like, why you're wasting your own time. Like they go there and they sit and they talk about nothing of value and then leave and have to watch their film later. I'm like, I don't know. If I was a recruiting coordinator and I would have ran the program 10 times better than Brian, I would have the coaches make sure that they had to have watched the film with them before, because then they can have a real conversation with the kid.
Yeah.
So I'm totally kidding, Brian. A lot of these coaches, sometimes they're just lazy too. So, I mean, they're busy as hell and they got kids hitting them up and they're trying to raise NIL. They're becoming fundraisers, just so you guys know. They're like fundraising now all the time. And so, but that's it. They got to ask the head coach.
Okay.
He'll do it. He should do it. Right, Brian? He'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Melissa, Richie's going to make me be cocky, right? This is being cocky. Okay. We just signed the best class in the history of the University of Arkansas last year. But I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? In the history of the school. And we went 4-8, by the way, and signed the best class in the history of the school. But anyway, Matt, to your point, so I was a high school coach for 7 years before I got into college ball. That makes no sense to me how the head coach does it. That makes no sense to me. One, because you can't promote each kid individually without the other kids hearing it. That's number one. You know what I mean? And two, you're not giving each individual kid, you know what I mean, the opportunity to promote himself and get to know the coach on an individual basis. So I would piggyback off what Richie said. Like, Lucas either needs to tell the head coach, hey, can I just get 2 or 3 minutes with him and here's why, you know what I mean? Or just, if he can't, say none of that works. If nothing else, Lucas has just got to make sure that coach gets his tape before he leaves, whether it's texting it to him, emailing it to something, you know what I mean? Even if they're not willing to give him the individual time, he just got to make sure he gets it in front of that coach or gets it on a device somehow through email, text, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? He's doing great, by the way, Matt.
Thank you, Brian.
Here's my thing. If I were Lucas too, like, because of his film and where he's at and the type of player he is, even if I had to be in that situation, and this is good for him to hear, I still think he should step up, shake the coach's hand. Thank you so much with me and our team. I think it'd be really valuable. Can I share with you my film quick and get an evaluation? And just do it, because what does he have to lose anyways?
That's a great point.
So at the end of the day, I mean, sorry, but he's doing everything in his power to get to the next level, because that's his goal. And we want to help those other 2 guys too. But, you know, at some point in time, you only sometimes get one shot with the coach. So.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and really quick, Allison, my son's also a middle linebacker, and his first 2 years, they didn't take stats either. So they would actually video all the games. We would go back through together and we'd mark down his tackles, whether it was a tackle for loss, we got an interception. And then he'd send it back to the coach that next week and say, hey, here are my numbers. Could you put those on Max Preps? And he would do it. Nothing has ever come from it, but it was a way to get his stats.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool.
I have a question about, like, so Matt said, hi Matt, by the way. Matt said that like the coach offered up 3 players to the college coach. What if your player's not one of those players? Then you're just missed out. You're just like not in that meeting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. No, this is a real thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, at that point, it goes back to the relationship with the head coach. Does that head coach know for sure that you want to play at the next level? And the question becomes, coach, what do I need to do in order to get represented when coaches come into the school? Okay. And just ask the coach, what do I need to do? Because I want to speak to the coaches when they come here and see what he has to say. You know, some head coaches are freaking crazy, so I don't know what they're gonna say. Like, I know, but there's many different things they can say. Like, but at the end of the day, it's, coach, what do I need to do to get represented?
Okay.
And here's the flip side to that, Melissa, is, so like when I would send guys out, they knew going into that school who they were going to ask about from the coach. And that's why the coach's relationship becomes important, because if I walk in there and I say, hey, coach, good to see you. I'd love to see Mario and Brad while I'm here, get a chance to talk to them real quick. And it's only 2 guys. If the coach has a good relationship with the kid and the kid's doing what he's supposed to do, this, that, and the other, if he's a good high school coach, he's going to say, hey, coach, would you have 5 more minutes? You know, I got a 26 running back, and give him your name. Do you have time to, just say hello and introduce yourself? You know what I mean? That's when that relationship comes in. Because sometimes they come in and just only ask to speak to a certain amount of kids. And it's the other way around too. Sometimes they come in with no list, which is crazy. But some of them come in with no list and they just ask the coach, who you got for me? So it works both ways.
Yep.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
So the moral though is relationship with head coach, make sure he knows what he wants and just ask. if coaches come to the school, how can you represent me or suggest me to meet with that coach? What do I need to do if he's not doing it?
And Richie, can I add a comment about what you were mentioning about having that small finite time? So it seems to me as if, because this happened to my son this afternoon, I just got home a little while ago, and I learned that both one of the coaches from Rutgers and New Hampshire came to visit the Central Florida area today.
Nice.
And when you were talking about, hey, it should even be if they just come out and say hello, get on social media and say, hey, it was nice to meet Coach so-and-so from such and such school. Thanks for stopping by today. So as you were saying that, I'm texting him saying, get on this right now and post it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, just do it. Richie's saying it.
Yeah.
All right. So the idea here would be, and I'm just thinking of, in the workplace with a lot of things, whenever we need to have something easily accessible, it's making me think that maybe what I might have him do is take his highlight film that he had from last year and link it to a QR code that he can put onto his locker or have it posted around the locker room. So whenever someone comes in and say, hey coach, would you like to look at my film? I don't have it with me, but if you take your phone right now, scan this QR code that I already have conveniently put up in strategic locations of the locker room or the office or in the hallways, you now have access to my video. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty next level. If you could pull that off and they won't rip it down, I mean,
Some guys, that's not far-fetched. I've been in schools where they had them on a card, like a oversized business card.
Yeah.
They just hold them out and you can just whoop.
Got it.
But let me ask you a question. Does he not? He doesn't have his phone with him?
No, he does. I'm just thinking. I'm thinking the way that this all took place today was he was coming off the field and it was en route from the field into the locker room.
You're saying that they don't have time to watch it right then.
Probably not. I'm thinking not. So.
Yeah. That's more to your point, Matt. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was saying, like if they didn't, if they don't get the situation fixed where they can watch it, that's one way to make sure they at least get it on their phone and are carrying it with them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah. So he could have like, in his pads, he could put a little couple business cards just for coaches to be there. But what my thought is, like, if the coach is already there at practice, one thing he can do is just say, hey coach, it's great meeting you. Can I have 2-3 minutes? There's something I want to share with you. And just pull the coach aside. I mean, the coach could say, actually, you know what? I can't right now. Or the coach would say, sure, but ask, you know what I mean? And, if he has to go back quick, go into the locker room and get his phone and then come back out and meet the coach, there's nothing wrong with that. And instead of having it just on the web, like where he has to go to a huddle and watch a commercial and all this, like just download the video into his photos on his phone so that he can pull it up anytime, no service, or what have you. But if it's like going into the locker room and the coach is there, yeah, run into the locker room, get his phone, come back out and meet the coach. Say, hey coach, do you mind if I just have 2-3 minutes? I'd love to speak with you. And that's it. And either coach is going to say yes or no, but you know what I'm saying? And if you could do the QR codes, do that, man. I love it. Okay. Brian, what do you think about that? Like going up to the coach and just, even if you're not in the environment, because what we're talking a lot about is the environment where they put you in a room and you get 3 to 5 minutes or such. But if it's after practice, why not just walk to the coach and say, hey coach, do you have 2-3 minutes?
Yeah, it's no different than asking him in the other setting. I mean,
Yeah, that's it. It's a scary thing, right? But that goes to the confidence. Shoulders back, chest out. Coach, great meeting you. Love the school. Can I just have 2-3 minutes? Boom. Phone, watch film. Good stuff.
See, I like the QR code on the shoulder pads or the helmet even. That's creative.
Yeah, man. Just put it right on your forehead. All right, cool. Any other questions before we rock? All right, cool. Listen, I thought this was awesome. We're going to continue doing these once a month, where we're going to pick a relevant topic and we'll post it in the community. But so great having all of you here. It's good seeing all of you. And we'll see y'all we'll post in the community the next time we have one. But kick some butt this spring. If you have any questions or specific scenarios come up, make sure to post in the community. We're always here to support. All right. Have an amazing week, amazing night. We'll see y'all soon.